Good evening. Thank you for joining us today. Sure was cold today, and it's expected to get colder across northwest Florida tonight.
Our meteorologist Joseph Newbauer joins us now. And Joseph, what are the conditions we can expect over the next couple of hours and into tomorrow morning?
Well, freezing temperatures. It's already freezing, believe it or not. We were below freezing by about 5 o'clock in some spots, which is pretty hard to do. It's been a cold day, obviously, all here on Tuesday, and it'll just get colder. Hard freeze warning, as you saw off the top. We could have inland spots into the teens, coastal spots down into the lower 20s. You factor in the wind that'll continue all night long. Wind chill advisory, very rare to get around here. That will mean wind chill values or feels like temperatures possibly in the single digits. So nasty stuff, and it's already started here at 6 o'clock. We're in the mid to upper 20s there in southern Alabama and below freezing along many coastal communities. Gulf breeze showing out at 33. It's tough for the high school there at that reading to get to 32 at this point in the evening, but they're almost freezing, and we're at freezing, below freezing at Pensacola International Airport with wind chill values in the teens area wide. Some holdouts in the 20s and 30s right at the coastline, but it's already bitterly cold, and we have some room to obviously cool down into the teens and lower 20s throughout the morning hours. And wind chill values weren't kidding. Single digits could show up on our wind chill maps as we head past midnight and head towards the early morning hours. And we won't be done. This is not our only Arctic blast. This weekend could be just as cold. We'll time out that secondary cold front, and when we could finally see a warm up coming up in the full weather report.
Thank you, Joseph. Well, a few scheduled changes for area schools because of this cold. Escambia County, Florida public schools will be closed tomorrow. They anticipate normal schedules on Thursday. Santa Rosa and Okaloosa County school districts have not canceled any classes. Schedule's normal for those districts. In Baldwin County, Alabama, classes will start at 10 a.m., a little later start. And in Escambia County, Alabama, classes will start 2 hours late. Mobile schools are closing tomorrow.
Now, the Florida Highway Patrol says freezing temperatures overnight could lead to dangerous road conditions for motorists in the morning.
WEAR's Karis Harmon joining us in the studio now. And Karis, the Florida Department of Transportation and Escambia County crews trading roads today before tonight's freeze.
Yes, they did, Bob and Sue, using chemicals and sand to get ahead and to keep motorists safe.
Most Floridians are not used to icy roads, let alone snow. Which we have seen in the past, but it's very, very rare.
Icy conditions are coming our way, with temps below freezing expected to hit the Florida Panhandle. Florida Highway Patrol Lieutenant Jason King says with icy roads come dangerous conditions.
You'll look across the highway, the blacktop, and it looks black, and it's actually holding ice.
Ice that could lead you to losing control of your vehicle if you're not careful.
How much does the risk increase during the cold weather?
Oh, it's so much more. You run the risk of crashing just by losing traction. Here in Florida, here in the lower parts of Georgia and Alabama, people experience the black ice, as we talked about earlier, where you see nothing, but you feel it when you lose control.
He says freezing roadways are more likely on bridges because they're typically made of concrete and are more absorbent than asphalt. But to combat that problem, FDOT called in the cavalry, spraying de-icing chemicals on bridges.
Our teams are already mobilized and monitoring weather conditions. We have done some preemptive spraying on some select locations in Northwest Florida, including the Escambia Bay Bridge on I-10, as well as the Pensacola Bay Bridge.
Escambia County has also joined in the effort. Public Works crews spent the better part of the day sanding the roads and county-maintained bridges. The Florida Department of Transportation says if road conditions become inoperable and dangerous, bridge closures could be possible.
Just be patient as we work through to try to get those bridges open.
Officials are asking motorists to stay off the roads tomorrow unless absolutely necessary. I'm live in the studio, Karis Harmon, WEAR News.
Thank you, Karis. Well, the Pensacola International Airport brought out the de-icers for some planes this morning. Each airline has their own criteria for deciding whether to de-ice their planes. De-icing operations for planes usually start when temperatures drop below 30 degrees with precipitation, but there are other factors as well.
Being in a southern area, we don't take a lot of precautions. We're really hostage to the weather. As long as the runways don't freeze up, we're good to go.
And with this colder weather, some flights may be canceled or delayed. It's always a good idea to check the status for your flights well beforehand. Well, area wildlife will be looking for some warm places to stay as well. They're not used to these temperatures either. The Northwest Florida Wildlife Sanctuary in Pensacola right now has about 100 birds in their care. And while they are all native to the area, not all of them acclimate to the cold very well. Tanner Stewart is live outside the sanctuary now to explain the help these animals are getting. Tanner?
Well, it certainly feels much cooler than it did just a few hours ago when we were out here. It may have something to do with the sun going down, I'm not sure, but you may not be surprised to learn that most of the animals housed just beyond this fence don't need any extra protection facing this weather over the next couple of days. But not all of them. Some of them surely do need some help.
From a siege of herons to a pod of pelicans, despite living in mostly warm weather throughout the year, these birds won't need much additional help over the coming days, with temperatures dropping significantly.
There's not a huge danger to them. They don't appreciate the cold.
Those staff at the Northwest Florida Wildlife Sanctuary say these particular birds tend to face more trouble this time of year.
They may be more prone to approaching people, especially fishermen, because they see that they've got fish. The water's going to be colder, which means the fish are going to go deeper. So we do get a fair amount of fishing tackle birds this time of year, but also just first-year juveniles that just didn't quite know what to do. They get separated.
Vultures, owls, and others, like 21-year-old Amelia the bald eagle from Kentucky, are accustomed to the cold, thus won't be needing protective shelter.
The rest of our birds, they're used to these temperatures. They can thermoregulate so they can keep themselves warm, but we provide extra food, extra bedding. We've got wind blocks up for the birds that need it, heat lamps if they need it, but everybody's nice and toasty.
While the sanctuary is home to 40 permanent residents and currently 60 rehabbing, only one species is being housed in the warmth.
These two birds in particular, they'll get really puffed up and they'll pull their one foot up in to protect it from the cold.
Princeton and June, the broad-winged hawks who've lived for years at the sanctuary, can't quite hang outside like their neighbors. While they're native to Florida, by now they would have migrated to South America for the winter.
They're a little bit out of climate. They'll get a little bit more agitated, they're a little bit more vocal. They come here for breeding season, they have their babies, and then everybody migrates back to South America for the winter. If we can make their lives more comfortable, that's what we want to do.
In rare cases where temperatures reach extreme lows, staff have created a plan for the animals. Although it's not common, the process is similar to extreme conditions we are familiar with in Florida.
We would basically do what we do for hurricanes, is everybody comes inside, and we put them in carriers and they hang out.
And it's not just birds here at the sanctuary. Throughout the year, they are home to animals like deer, raccoons, any live animal native to this area. Now, going over some tips, if you will, staff increase the rations for the animals. They encourage maybe doing so, too, if you plan on leaving your pets or exotic animals out in this weather. Similar to humans, they burn more calories in this cold. And for those living with exotic animals, again, I'm told if you are uncomfortable in these conditions, your animals probably are, too. Reporting live tonight in Escambia County, I'm Tanner Stewart, WEAR News.
WEAR Sade Ray is out there right now joining us. And Sade, you were checking on the scene at Pensacola Beach today and found a few diehards.
Bob, it's been quiet out here all day. There hasn't been any people out here, and the wind honestly has been brutal and really uncomfortable. But that hasn't stopped some from working or even bringing their families out here to Pensacola Beach.
You go to Pensacola Beach for the white sand, blue water, and often plenty of company, but not today. We did find bridge constructor supervisor Jamie Johnson. His crew has been out here since 6:30 this morning. He says his crew ran into sleet earlier in the day, which impacted their work.
It slowed the process way down. Actually, we had to call in a weather day for today because we couldn't get no production done.
Johnson says the wind felt like it was cutting through the layers he put on to brave the cold.
It's no comparison to the wind. You're not going to win.
For the Polster family, visitors from Illinois, it didn't matter that the cold weather followed them on their vacation.
Well, right now, it feels like a tropical paradise. We left Highland, it was -2, -4 with about 30, 35 mile an hour winds. It was kind of snowing, and it was flipping cold.
Polster says they come down to Pensacola Beach usually once during the summer and winter. He says his family will enjoy their trip and the beach to the fullest, regardless of the temperatures.
And everything stops working once you go below zero.
Michael Pruitt is from Indianapolis. He's here for a fighter conference. Even though Pruitt knew the cold weather was coming, The wind proved to be more blustery than expected.
This morning, it was a big change. That was a cold blast, Arctic blast that came in. Just not something you relate to Florida, obviously, in your mind, especially if you don't spend a lot of time in Florida. You think it's warm 365 days of the year.
Pruitt noted the weather change from Monday into Tuesday was sudden.
I got here on Sunday. People were out on the beach. There were actually some people that were laying around the pool taking in some sun. This morning when I woke up and looked out, there wasn't anybody outside.
Pruitt still has the rest of the week for his conference, and he plans on facing the cold, fighting the cold, much like everyone I was speaking with. Live in Pensacola Beach, Sade Ray, WEAR News.